Colorado Springs' #1 car show by default. This is Automotive ADHD.
And my next guest is someone who has seen success in the business world and now oversees a legendary company that has been serving automotive enthusiasts since 1954. Now, they have the world's largest collector car marketplace, as well as an extensive collection of resources for current collector car owners and prospective buyers. Jonathan Shaw, president of Hemmings, welcome to Automotive ADHD.
Matt, such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for having me on. Can't wait to talk cars with you. It's what we love. It's our passion here.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And we got a ton of stuff to talk about. And before we do that real quick, you've got a really cool story with how you got involved with Hemmings, at least initially at a little bit of at a young age. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I shared a love of cars. I inherited through my grandfather. He was kind of an American hot rodder, 32 Deuce Coupe, 56 F100. It wasn't unusual for us to go on trips together to go look at cars or find, various cars he was interested in. And so we went on one of these weekend trips. We went up to a place called Bennington, Vermont. And I thought we were just going to see a really cool museum at this little, kind of garage gas station museum place. Little did I know he was there to negotiate the purchase of Hemmings. I sat outside the office waiting my chance to go into the museum and see the cars while he was doing business. And I think I was about 12 years old at the time. And so to come kind of full circle, around and consult with Hemmings in 2018 and then come on as president in 2019 was really special to me, and I have a deep personal connection with this brand and an affinity for it, and it's not just me. Millions of people have a really strong affinity for Hemmings.
Absolutely. And it's a really cool story too, because your career kind of took you into some other avenues of business between when you were 12 and your grandfather buying Hemmings. And then you did come back full circle. You kind of pursued some other things and then you came to Hemmings. Just kind of tell me why you wanted to do that. Obviously the connection there with Hemmings, but what drew you to the company?
Sure. What I saw in Hemmings, and my background was in digital product development, but had been around the media space, had been doing some M&A work in the media space before that, and had been with a company that is a large publisher of newspapers that had really grown and built a digital and event presence for itself. And what we saw was, my knowledge from that, and my ability to take that to Hemmings and take what was largely a print media company at the time that ran a marketplace, but was very focused on its media business, and understand, hey, there's a massive e-commerce opportunity here that we need to unlock beyond kind of your traditional classified piece. And that's where I saw the opportunity was, expanding the event portion of the business, expanding into online auctions, make offer, direct to consumer sales of vehicles. Was something untapped to the brand, but I think chiefly it was a brand that had tremendous patronage, tremendous respect in the industry, and I thought and it's built on trust and customer service, and I thought, gosh, if we layer on some new technology and a new kind of digital strategy for this existing business, it can really be a juggernaut, and that's really what we've created and continue to build upon now.
Absolutely. And I think what's cool is some of my listeners, some of my older listeners especially, will probably recognize Hemmings from years before and when you just did print stuff now. And you're bringing that into the 21st century with this. And so I think it's really cool because you've got people who definitely recognize Hemmings, and maybe don't know some of the really cool digital stuff that you've moved into. Now, tell me a little bit about, the history goes back to 1954. So you're getting ready, you're gearing up here, you're celebrating the 70th anniversary of Hemmings. Tell me a little bit about Hemmings' history as a whole.
Yeah, it's such a neat story. So unlike a lot of startups that kind of create these crazy, names out of nothing, Hemmings is named after our founder, Ernest Hemmings, who was a big Model A and Model T enthusiast in 1954. So, they were collecting cars from the 20s and the 30s at that time. And he saw a need in the marketplace where he and his Model T buddies didn't have any place where they could communicate or create community around buying and selling parts or buying and selling Model Ts, in general, the vehicles themselves. So he created a 4-page pamphlet, mailed it to 100 of his Model A and Model T buddies in their community and car clubs, and that is how Hemmings was born. So here we are 70 years later, after a 4-page pamphlet to 100 people. We'll circulate to over 300,000 plus people in print. We'll do 3.5 million plus unique visitors to the website, to Hemmings.com, every single month. So 30,000 cars online for sale at any time. So from those humble beginnings in Quincy, Illinois, and a 4-page print pamphlet all the way to what we are today is kind of a testament to this collector car community and the love that we all have for participating in this world.
Absolutely. And I think what you're doing with Hemmings is, it's astounding when you see the reach that you have with it and how many car enthusiasts, who benefit from some of the things that you do. Now, aside from, doing the car marketplace, run me through some of the things that Hemmings does, because you pretty much do everything when it comes to car stuff, from car parts to information. Run me through some of that.
Sure. One area we've really focused on over the last year is developing services onto the marketplace, and we call it building the frictionless marketplace. So we have a valuation product, and certainly you can go on and you can research sold prices for vehicles from anywhere, but we actually personally value your car, where you send in the details and the photos of the vehicle. We research recent sales and comps both on Hemmings as well as, kind of the broad collector range from wherever the sales may happen to that exact make, model, and year and trim package, and give you a personalized valuation in return. We have also added a shipping product directly in, where you can get free shipping quotes and book your shipping directly through the Hemmings marketplace. We also have an insurance marketplace with top carriers. So, we're really focused and we'll continue to focus in 24 with a few more product launches and kind of demystifying the space, making sure that anybody can participate, that, no stone is left unturned. We're giving you resource guides, buyer's guides, how to, along with that pricing information. And then on the flip side, once you go for the buy, making sure it's extremely transparent. The pricing is all up front, the insurance, the transportation is a part of it. So really focused on, making the collector car space an easy place to buy and sell and participate with as much transparency and the least amount of friction as possible.
And I think that's a really handy thing to have as a car enthusiast. You've got a couple options when it comes to buying a collector car, for example. And those, range from everything from your Facebook marketplace classifieds to Craigslist to, huge auction houses too. And there's a lot of mystery there if you've never bought a classic car before, in valuing the car and inspecting it. And like you mentioned with shipping too, I think that's really, really incredible that you are able to at least provide some context into how people can ship their cars. Because that's always a big hurdle. I think a lot of guys don't want to ship a car and may miss out on some really cool collectible opportunities just because of the challenges in setting up shipping a car. I've shipped a car personally, and I went the route of finding a trucker and going through a company that works with the trucking dispatchers and finding a trucker, and then you got to wait for them to load up a trailer and all of this stuff. And it was an arduous process, at least going into it without knowing anything. And with you bringing that knowledge with Hemmings and then all of that support base with the insurance and all of the above, I think it's really, I hate to use a cliche, but kind of like a one-stop shop. Like you can kind of get everything done you need to do in the collector car world with Hemmings. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. That's exactly what we've tried to develop is kind of a place where every single opportunity where somebody say, I don't want to buy a collector car because I don't want to deal with shipping, or I don't know how to insure it, or I don't know what to pay for it. We've tried to create products that get people through every single step of that process. And, the shipping portion is a shipping marketplace. So, folks can know that they're getting a best price from, a wide range of certified carriers. They can choose enclosed shipping. They can choose open shipping. Not every project car needs to be, inside the climate controlled trailer, but, some certainly do. Our Our marketplace runs the gamut from project cars at a few $100s or $1,000 all the way up to, 14, 15, $20 million Delahaye's and some really special stuff.
Wow. My guest is Jonathan Shaw, president of Hemmings. Now, we're going to talk more about Hemmings. We're going to talk more about some of your thoughts, Jonathan, on the collector car market as a whole in the next segment coming up here. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Automotive ADHD here on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Speed Council proudly presents Automotive ADHD, now on video. For better or for worse, subscribe to Automotive ADHD, now playing on YouTube and Rumble.
And here we are in the next segment of the Automotive ADHD show on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. I am really excited because joining me on the show is Jonathan Shaw, president of Hemmings. You may be familiar with the name Hemmings, and you may know them from their decades of service to the collector car enthusiast, but you may not know some of the really interesting stuff they're doing now, especially in the online and the digital age. Jonathan, thank you for joining me here on the Automotive ADHD show.
It's great to be with you, Matt. What's better than talking cars? Who doesn't want to do that?
I know. I mean, hey, I talk about cars on the radio because, my friends have gotten sick of me talking about them so much everywhere else. So here I am. Now, that being said, Hemmings has got some really interesting stuff. In the last segment, we really touched on the services that you provide and how Hemmings is kind of a one-stop shop when it comes to, anything for the car enthusiast. Now, I want to talk a little bit now about the classic car market, the collector car market. There's a lot of, I hear a lot of speculation, and I could even be accused of doing some speculation on what the market's doing. What are the next collectible cars? Now, you as the president of Hemmings have a really interesting perspective on that. Where do you see cars going here in the next couple of years? What trends have you seen leading up until now? I know we've had, some cars, some eras of cars start to, get really expensive and others maybe not. What are your thoughts on the collector car market as it is right now?
It's changed considerably. Just the sheer way people buy and sell cars now is completely different. I liken it to the kind of Amazonification of our world. In general, you're seeing so much more e-commerce of cars happen than ever before, where people are buying cars. And I think a testament to kind of what we've created at Hemmings and others, with as much transparency as possible, with as detailed research and photographs that we're requiring people to put up. People feel a lot more comfortable about buying a car. There's places where you can order pre-purchase inspections and get that taken care of before you move through. So you're seeing a lot more e-commerce in buying and selling cars. Whether that's live online auctions on Hemmings or our make offer product, or just going the traditional classified route. And so the online portion has risen. I think you're seeing a lot more trading. During COVID, you had a huge spike in desire and people wanting to, and showing and executing interest in collector cars, because in some states, that's all you could do. You were either going to the grocery store, or you could go on a car ride, or you worked on a car in your garage as a way to spend your time during COVID. So we saw prices rise considerably. You also saw the largest demographic group in America start to sell off, kind of the older boomer generation. And then you started to see millennials come into their buying power. And that has shifted interest considerably. So, the millennial interest is really in both SUVs. So you're seeing the rise of SUVs go up considerably. But you're also seeing the 80s and 90s cars take off like wildfire right now. So you're talking, significant number of sales starting to come through on Grand Nationals, on Fox Body Mustangs, on third-gen IROC Z Camaros. Price averages going up, $5,000+ a year, kind of on average in those sales in a single year period. So those are starting to rise considerably. Where we're seeing some fall off is in kind of your traditional hot rod scene. So, 20s and 30s hot rods, Model A's, Model T's are certainly backing off quite a bit in the marketplace right now. So, between those things, you've got the rise of also resto mods. So you're seeing resto mods at auction where somebody has swapped out the traditional, carbureted engine and driveline and for a new transmission, either an LS or a Gen 3 Hemi or a Coyote motor. Bluetooth stereos inside, AC, kind of all these wonderful things that we've gotten accustomed to. So you're essentially taking the beautiful styling of a collector car and you're matching it to a modern, dependable driveline. You're seeing resto mods start to demand higher prices in some cases than numbers matching, kind of what we would have considered a couple years ago as the holy grail auction cars.
And that's interesting because when you look at your numbers matching collectibles and your sort of museum cars versus your resto mods. And, there's a big difference there in what the cars do and how they operate. I think some of that maybe could be attributed to the fact that your millennial buyers now, and I like to see this, maybe are actually driving the cars a lot more too. Do you see that?
I think you're exactly right. It's long been said the millennial buyer group, they're a very experiential group, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to buy goods just to have goods. They want to go out and use them. They go camping. They go on road trips. So certainly, yes, I think the millennial group is going to get behind the wheel. And what I also think is interesting, that group is going to be, because they're more e-commerce friendly and more adept at buying and selling online, I think you're going to see trading happen more often. So less of buying a car and, I'm going to hold it for my lifetime. We're going to hold it for the next 30 years. I think you're going to own it for a season or 2 or 3 years. And you're going to say, okay, I had the Dodge, 70 Dodge Challenger muscle car. Now I'm going to go to the 87 Grand Wagoneer and try something completely different. Or next I want the British sports car. So you're going to see people kind of moving in and out of categories more too.
Absolutely. And that I think kind of in a weird way is, sort of the inspiration for a lot of like my show too, like we're not just focused on classics. We're not just focused on 90s Japanese cars or things like that. My show has a wide focus, as a lot of my listeners are used to. And so do, I think, millennial buyers. You talk about that. I definitely fall into that category. And, for me, sometimes it's really fun to experience a car for a while. And then, okay, I did this to it. I modified this. I did that. I want to try something different now. You mentioned a 87 Grand Wagoneer, which I recently traded a AMC Hornet for, one just like that. And those, it's really cool. I think it's very surprising when you find especially older guys in the car scene who are surprised to see that a lot of the younger crowd is interested in these cars. And I think that definitely shows in the marketplace and with probably what you're seeing as well. Now, are there any specific cars, any makes, any things like that you see as really being hot? Like, hey, these are coming up, maybe not right now, but these are really contending for a future classic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So what I think is going to be, we saw the big rise in Grand National prices. But Fox body Mustangs, you can still get in a really good 79 to 93 Fox body Mustang for $25,000. We've seen prices start to rise in those. If you're in the market, I would jump on one right now because I think that car is going to be really, really hot. Kind of third gen Camaros, especially the IROC Zs, still again that 25K average price range. I think that's going to rise considerably. Square body Blazers, they're a little on the hotter side right now. You're getting into 30s plus for those. If you want to buy something that's kind of original, we've seen square body Blazers bring 6 figures at auction. And wow. So, the full resto mod, brand new LS and et cetera, there's good upside in these right now. And in those 80s and 90s cars, you can find the ones that, especially if you're going to do some work on it, it doesn't have to be perfect. I wouldn't be scared away by, a higher mileage car, especially if you're going to do an engine and trans swap. Kind of means moot at that point.
Right, you're just talking miles on the body. Now, again, my guest is Jonathan Shaw, president of Hemmings. Before we wrap up this segment, just a minute left. What's in your wish list? What are some cars you've seen on Hemmings, sitting there from your desk that you go, oh, that's going on my wish list there? What's in your wish list?
Yeah, so before we cut up, I pulled up my favorite listings on Hemmings right now, and it kind of smacks me in the face. I am a millennial classic SUV fan, so I got an 87 Grand Wagoneer, a 78 GMC Jimmy. I do have a 1990 Land Rover. I love those classic long wheelbase Range Rovers. So I've got one of those in there. Muscle car for me, though, I love the Corvettes. I think, you could argue sports car or muscle car, which one is it? But I love the steel bumpers and the 70s Corvettes for sure.
Absolutely. I think some of the C3 generation of those Corvettes are just gorgeous cars. I mean, the lines on those cars. And like you said, is it a muscle car? Is it a sports car? I don't know. You decide, right?
It'll go in a straight line, but the beautiful thing is those cars will turn really well too. So they're kind of extremely versatile. There's been a few that we've featured in Hemmings Muscle Machines magazine that I've flagged over the years. Like, wow, if I ever do a build, this is what I'm attaining to. This is what I'm shooting for to build something like that.
Awesome. I love it. Now, last thing, you've been talking about here how Hemmings has been expanding and some of the things looking into the future of Hemmings and the world of digital and things like that. Where can people find Hemmings online? It's not just on the website and it's not just print now. You've really done some more things to expand that.
That's right. So we launched a new marketplace app this year. So go into your smartphone, both the iOS store and the Android store, and you can download the Hemmings Marketplace app. Users are spending about 7.5 minutes on average when they open the app. So it's pretty sticky. You're going to get lost in some good cars there on the app. Also, our event series has come back this year. So in 2024, we're going to run 4 of our Muscle Palooza events. So that's everything from kind of vintage muscle cars and modern muscle cars and street cars to muscle trucks, hot rods, drag cars. We're doing that in 4 different locations this year and about to drop the announcement for where that's happening. And in YouTube, we started filming several YouTube series 2 years ago. We were up to 6 series this year, 2 of which are kind of pertinent to this conversation. We did an 87 IROC Z build, and we are airing right now. The episodes have come out once a week starting 2 weeks ago, a Fox Body Mustang build. So go check us out on the Hemmings channel on YouTube as well.
Awesome. I love it. I'm going to be subscribing to that and staying in touch with everything that Hemmings is doing. Now, Jonathan Shaw, it's been a real pleasure having you on my show. Thank you for joining me here on Automotive ADHD.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt.
And thank you for joining me on this edition of the Automotive ADHD show here on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer. Also in the Wet Mountain Valley on 91.7 KLZR. Lots of great ways to catch this show. And if you missed out on the radio, that's okay. You can catch it as a podcast as well, wherever fine shows and mine are downloaded. Also, if you're listening to Spotify, if you're on there, Spotify lets you rate shows. Give this show a 6-star rating. I mean, it only goes up to 5, but blow it up. Give it 6 stars there. Now, I will see you same place, same time next weekend when we're talking more cars here on the Automotive ADHD show.